What do you do if you're posted on the correct diagonal and you have them set up properly to pick up the correct lead and they still pick up the wrong lead? Well, here's a pretty easy fix right here. And you get to stay out of his way and not fight with him. Stick around and I will show you some other neat ways to add value to your ride in the arena. Alright, welcome back to Becky, Amio Horse Training, and this is Bonny's Six Shooter here. Now, first off, I want to apologize to you guys that I'll be shooting with the Pivo on this ride, and so there's a little bit of glitchiness, a little bit of a problem with zooming in and out. So, I'm sorry, just some days I'm able to set it up, and sometimes I'm able to get somebody else to come out here and video me. So, it's a little bit further away in some of the video recording. Now, this is approximately ride 15. I apologize it did not get the last few rides. The last ride I had on video was ride 12, and I have to admit I get a little spooked in September. It's a fine line between when it starts to get cold, we could possibly get a snowstorm, and if we get a snowstorm, we're done. It's game over until spring, and I started to panic a little bit, and we had a little bit of wind, so I couldn't set up the Pivo, and I couldn't get anybody to come over and video me, so I had to put some rides on him. So I'm pretty sure this is approximately ride 15. This was about 7 days, 5 to 7 days after the last video on my recording, so that's why I'm pretty sure there was a couple in between this. And, you know, he's riding around really good and consistent. I know I stacked a couple days in a row of riding on him. That's why he's being so well-minded. It's also warmed back up again, right? And you see me in a nice lightweight shirt. I'm not, you know, in a hooded sweatshirt and a vest here and with leggings on and all that. I'm able to put him right into basic handle work. He had a really good warm-up. He's moving all the way down to the south side of this arena. You know, he's got his ears up. He's aware, but he's not stopping on me. He's not resisting. He's allowing me to hold him into a circle and then put him back on the rail and then work around this arena. So we see he's getting really comfortable with this side of the arena here, and we've got less than 20 rides. So when you're in the middle of doing something with your horse and you're struggling through whatever it may be, just remember, you know, in 20 rides, this may not matter anymore. In 15 rides, it may not matter anymore. Or even in another year, it's not going to matter. So keep that in mind when you guys get frustrated. I mean, I was really, really frustrated there for several rides when I could not get him down to that side of the arena. It was pretty discouraging when everything else is pretty willing to go down there. He was really, really struggling with it. And, you know, he's lived in this arena. He's been turned out in here. He's been lunged in here. He's done groundwork in here. You know, there's no reason for him to do that with a rider on his back. It's just, that's who he is. And I'm going to have to work on that, and we're going to have to work through that maturity. And one thing we know about Shooter is that he doesn't take being picked on. He doesn't really like to be trained on a lot. You know, those horses that will just allow you to do something over and over and over again, and they're totally fine with it. Shooter's not going to take it. So I can only do so many of these basic handle maneuvers with him before he gets frustrated and starts refusing or locking up or just kind of quitting on me. And I'm really excited that he's starting to look for this stop here. He's wanting to come around and bring his front end around his hind end. He's, you know, he gets a little locked up still, but, you know, I haven't done this maneuver 50 times. You know, I've done it probably, I don't know, 10 times now, maybe 15 times now in the last 4 rides. And I have to really break it up so I don't get him frustrated. You know, we have to recognize the try with him. We have to break it up by adding in circles, by adding change of direction. just different maneuvers. We can't just bang, bang, bang on him. And like I said, there's other horses that'll take that, and they're a little bit more user friendly, and they work for just about anybody. In his case, he's not going to be okay with that. He's a little bit looser going to the left here. Again, we break up that 360 into 180 pieces. We don't try to make it one complete turn. And if he takes a step out of it, that's okay. We don't go to banging on him. We just, gently correct, back him up a step, and then bring him around and push him on through forward again. Now, I'm going to put him into those circles here, those ones that worked so well before. Smaller circle, posting on the correct diagonal, gentle change of hand here, change direction, help get his mind on the center. And what we're going to see in these particular circles is he's kind of being lazy. He's dropping that shoulder. They're not the prettiest circles. And I'll tell you, sometimes it's really embarrassing working these circles if you're in public, because they don't really look like circles. They're kind of a mess. They're ugly. And, you have this internal voice going, oh my gosh, this isn't very pretty and people are watching me and blah, blah, blah. But there is a method to the madness. So I get him a little bit more aggressive with my inside leg and kick that hip around because he's just dumping to the inside. And when I kick that hip around, it's because I have more control of that hind end. I've always had more control of the hind end on this horse than I've had the front end, right? Every single horse that I ride, that's how I do it. I get control of the hind end first. But eventually, you do you. If getting in control of the front end is easier for you, do that. But I get control of my hind end first, and then I gradually work my up to getting control of the hips and having more control of the forehand and getting that more responsive when I give it a cue. So I'm gradually trying to make this circle bigger and bigger and open up that shoulder and keep him from dropping to the inside, right? Because eventually he's going to be a barrel horse, and I want to be able to lift that inside rein and make him move out of the turn or move over so he doesn't knock a barrel, right? So I put him in a rollaway with a 360 on top of it here. And I'm really excited at the improvement of these, the way he's crossing over with the front and sticking the hind end in place, walks out of it really calmly. He's not argumentative. He's very reasonable about it. Super, super game to play. Now, I'm changing the game a little bit from those circles that we were doing to turning it into a counter arc or a counter bend. And this is brand new. Because it's going to help improve that drop shoulder that we were getting there. And I'm going to throw in another rollaway with a 360 on it here before we go into it. But what we're going to do is we're going to work on moving the shoulder the opposite direction of our circle. So shoulder and forehand is going to go the opposite direction of our circle. And you'll see here that as I start to put him into it, he gets a little frustrated. See how he kind of speeds up. He's not really sure what I'm asking for. I'm trying to take that head to the outside, and I'm going to counter bend him. So he's going to make a half moon circle with his body to the inside of this circle, and he's not quite sure what we're doing here, so he changes directions on me. I'm picking up that left rein and trying to move him across. He has to come to a walk because it's too difficult of a maneuver to do it at the trot. Some horses can get it at the trot right away, but they usually break down to a walk to get it. And this, again, is another one of those games that you only do a little bit of it. You recognize the try, you get a few steps, and then you let him walk out of it. See, I didn't do very much of it. I let him go long and low with his head and neck and stretch out of it, because not only is it, physically difficult to do at first, but it is mentally and emotionally draining because I take a bigger hold of their face and hold them together, and I take that outside rein and I'll pull it across the shoulder here. We take that left rein across the shoulder. His head's tilted to the left, but that forehand is moving to the right. Can you see that right there? That's a little bit better shot of it there. And I'm able to bend him around in a circle, and that's going to help elevate that side when I go to turn a barrel. If I need to pick up that inside rein, elevate that shoulder, and move him out of the circle rather than going to an outside rein, and that'll pull them out of frame. I mean, we've all seen that. The people that are running a barrel, they pull with an outside rein and knocks the horse out of frame, and they end up shouldering the barrel anyway. In this case, this is when it starts to teach them that I'm going to pick up that rein, that inside rein, and elevate that shoulder over when we move towards an object to turn it. And again, whenever trying something new with them and trying to teach a new technique, always give them lots of breaks, and especially with Shooter, I got to really recognize the try because he's being super reasonable, and I've got to let him work it out, stretch out, go long and loose with the reins. And, I've done a lot of preparing for this particular technique from day one. I've worked on lateral with this horse since his groundwork. And if you guys want to see any videos of that, I know I've got videos on my page of working lateral on the ground with other horses, possibly with Shooter, but I've also done the lateral work from day one when we did turns on the forehand on the very first ride. And I always try to work on those turns on the forehand, and that is where your lateral work begins, getting control of that hind end. Even if somebody's on the ground helping you, there's nothing wrong with somebody on the ground helping you those first couple of rides, trying to get control of that hind end. And now if you notice, as we see him going around at a really nice collected trot here, he's got an even cadence and he's holding his balance so much better. Can you guys see that? How much more like symmetrical and well-shaped his circle has become? His trot is really even. He's not super high-headed, and he's just going around pretty quiet in a pretty even circle. So I think that work really balances them out quite a bit. And I think I'm really starting to play him out here. When he breaks down to a walk on his own, I can tell that, I think mentally and emotionally it's becoming a little bit more for him. Maybe physically not so much because this horse has a really big motor, and if I really wanted to, we could go quite a ways with him, but we don't want to blow it with his mental and emotional state. So again, walking him around really quietly, letting him catch his breath, because we still have loping to do, right? We still need to lope this horse. We haven't done that yet today. And I'm going to pick him up in the lead, and this is where we try to set him up to pick up the correct lead by posting on the correct diagonal, by setting him up, hoping to push his hip to the inside of the circle. That's going to help pick up the correct lead. If you guys want more information on that, I'm sure I've got videos out there I could lead you to, maybe, put a comment on this video and I'll try to direct you to videos where I've showed you how to do that. But what if you've done all the right things to get them on the correct diagonal and they're still not picking up the correct lead? Okay, there's a couple different ways you can handle this, right? In this case, when he picks up the wrong lead, I don't want to fight with him, right? I don't want to get in his face. I don't want to go pulling on him. All I do is just make a big circle and change direction. No big deal. Now he's on the correct lead, right? Easy enough fix. When you're working at home by yourself and you're working on this stuff, that's how you fix that problem. Sure, it's not going to work in the show pen when you're working a pattern, but for right now, with a colt with 15 rides on him, this works fabulously. Go ahead and let him lope around. And now I'm going to start using some of those techniques that I just used in those trot circles to help push him all the way into the corner. So now we've allowed him now for several rides to fall in on the corners. He doesn't ride all the way to the corner. We hear dressage trainers, riders talk about riding all the way into their corners. We want our Western horses to ride all the way in the corners as well. And we want them to be responsive off our leg and shape their body appropriately. And we want to utilize this whole arena. And so I'm going to push really hard with this inside leg, and I'm going to lift with this inside rein to help push him into those corners and use it effectively. He struggles a little bit there. He breaks down to a trot on me. I get a little tail swish. That's not a tail swish like there's flies there. That was kind of a crabby tail swish. I'm trying to get him all the way into this corner because we've watched him now in every other video riding in the arena. He's cut this whole side of the arena, in more than half. He's cut it into thirds. He's never worked all the way into that corner for whatever reason. And it's not because the ground's not good, because we've worked the ground clear into that corner. So that's how we build up to using that particular exercise. We go from a turn on the forehand, first ride, to working counter bend at a walk and a trot, to doing it at a lope on these circles, working them into these corners in the arena. So it's really kind of fun to see the evolution of a particular technique, and it working fairly well on a young Colt, and he's holding himself together, and, we've gotten several laps here, and so, like I said, he's not probably as physically tired as we think. It's probably more mental and emotionally draining for him. We have a really, really nice stop over there on the other side. He wants to be quiet right there. I don't go to picking at him. I don't think he's ever going to be that kind of horse that does that really hard stop, he's never going to be like a reiner, right? But the fact that he's thinking about raiding down and stopping for me, I'm just tickled with that. I'm really happy with that. Again, long, loose rein, let him stretch his neck out long and low, nod and bob his head, and relax and catch his breath. And then we're going to do this to the right. Okay, we're going to play game over again. Let him walk and cool out a little bit here. Let him catch his breath. Now, one of the cool things here as we're walking around, look at this nice little counter arc. He makes a smaller circle with that hind end as he does his front end. Comes around. He's very reasonable about this. That was so cool. I want to try it back the other direction. I'm able to take his head to the outside of the turn. He crosses over really pretty with that front end. I get just a few steps. Don't get greedy, okay, when you're playing these games. Now, these are really cool games to play when you're cooling them out, when they're just catching their breath. It's super, super easy. And you don't pick at them. You do one here, drop your reins, let them catch their breath a little bit more. Pick them up, do another one, let them catch their breath. All really, really easy and simple to do while they're getting their breath, and it doesn't require a lot of effort physically out of them, and you've got them a little bit winded, and so they're a little bit more likely to be reasonable when you're asking this of them. Now, one thing I want to point out here is just on the other side of this fence line, this east fence line, is we're probably just 50 feet off the road. And so you'll see going down this road on a regular basis, big grain trucks, tractors, whatever. And so you don't always see them. You just saw the one that went by, but you don't always see them. You tend to see, hear them, and they're really loud. And so you would think he would be more spooky on that side of the arena, but he's not. Instead, he tends to be more spooky on this south side of the arena, but it all gets them used to sounds and whatnot. So now we're starting to see a little bit of a habit form here. He already picked up the wrong lead going this direction. And in this way, I ended up breaking him back down to the trot, and I'm posting on my correct diagonal here, and I'm trying really hard to set him up. Now I'm going to be a little bit firmer about picking up that right lead. Like, we've already loped on the left lead, dude. And we've worked through that, but now I'm gonna make you set your body up correctly and take that lead when I ask for it. So there's a couple things going on here. When I do get him set up correctly and I ask him for the right lead, chances are he's not taking it right away, and he trots a couple more strides, and then he falls out of frame and then takes the wrong lead. That's often what happens with colts, okay, if they don't take it right away. And so there gets to be a point there where we evaluate how broke a horse is by how quickly they lope off. And he's getting there, right? He's getting there. And I wanted to make a point about him picking up correct leads in this particular ride, because I don't want to create a habit. At this point, he knows his leads, right? And I'm going to do the same thing here. Lope great big nice circles. The fact that I got it. I'm really happy with that. I'm not going to work him too hard this direction. I know I'm running out of horse. We can see it. I'm kind of pushing him a little bit harder as we go around. He's loping really quiet, a nice even cadence, a nice big circle, using a quarter of this arena. And he breaks down to a trot, really nice downward transition, and then a really nice stop for me. And I ask him to back up, and he's starting to really break at the pole for me when he backs up. I really, really like that. You know, being consistent every time we stop, there's a break at the pole, back up, always asking, you know, being consistent about asking them to back up, back off your hands every single time. Remember, every single thing we do, we're training on them. And again, walking him and cooling him out really quietly, you know, gonna go find a nice place to get off of him and call it a day. Now, as I cool him out for the end of the day, I always go back to that side of the arena that he's been so scared of. Let's make this the good, happy place, right? And honestly, you know, I am just so happy that he's not being super overreactive. I'm happy to just walking this colt on a long, loose rein. We know he's got speed. We know we can always add speed. And for right now, for him to go slow and be quiet, that's a big win in my book. You know, being at the place that we are in our career, you know, 2-year-old, the fall of his 2-year-old year, and, you know, about 15 rides into it. And shoot, really only a handful of rides here in the arena. Now, I'm going to make a point to do a roll away with a 360 on top of it over here, and he starts to stick it really good. And then he gets sticky when I try to roll him back that direction. And I will tell you a little tip here is, and this is where I screwed up, is that when you're doing like a final roll, make sure you're going the direction of home or the direction of the gate. That will improve the quality of your roll so much better. The fact that I try to take him back that direction to the south again, he gets a little bit sticky on me. So I have to be aware of stuff like that. But at any rate, I'm going to stop him right here. I'm going to back him up just a little bit and step right off of him. He's not concerned at all about being down at the south side of the arena, and I'm pretty pleased with that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching. I sure appreciate you being here.